Welcome aboard, shipmates. This is Real Sailors, Real Sea Stories, a training program for the United States Naval Sea Cadet Corps by our friends and supporters at the Navy Talent Acquisition Group in Philadelphia. I'm your host, Warrant Officer David Sheets from the Naval Sea Cadet Corps, and I am joined by our all-star crew of MC1 Quinlan, who's our Public Affairs Officer, STG1 Lewison, who's our Technical Support Director, and our Talent Scout from the Naval Sea Cadet Corps, Ensign DePippo. So today's episode, the #1 requested episode that you cadets have had so far. What is it about? It's about being a United States Navy SEAL. And we are very fortunate to have Petty Officer First Class Charles Stratton from Naval Recruiting District Phoenix, a Navy SEAL, who's here to give us his background, what it's like going through training, what's it like with his operational commitments, and just basically, what the hell is it like to be so damn cool to be a Navy SEAL? And I'm sure he'll let you know. So that's fantastic. So cadets, as we go through here, for those who are watching live, make sure that you're asking your questions, put them in the comment section, and I'll find a way to weave it into the conversation. Remember, this is for you. So ask questions, get everything answered. This is the subject matter you really wanted to know. See if you have what it takes in order to attempt to be a Navy SEAL. For those of you who are watching the recorded version, if you have questions, also put them in the comments section and we'll get back to you. It's not a problem. You can be here live. You can be here later. It's no big deal. What you want to know is important to us. So after the presentation, as you know, there will be an online quiz. That online quiz will be made available. Take it, get 2 hours of virtual drill credit, and get some accomplishment of actually, fulfilling that obligation. At the same time, if not everything is covered in today's presentation, which it may or may not be, we don't know, this is live, right? Look it up on Google. You'll be fine. No big deal. All right. So without any further delay, enough of me. Let's go to our special guest. So Petty Officer Stratton, this ship is all yours.
Appreciate it. Hey, everybody. How's it going? My name is SO1 Stration. You can just skip to the next slide real quick since it's all about me anyways. So I'm originally from Ferndale, Michigan. It's literally like if you're at Detroit, it's like connected right to it. I've been in the Navy now for 12 and a half years. I went straight from high school to boot camp to BUD/S, graduated, went out to SEAL Team 10, did a couple deployments out there. My first one was Afghanistan. My second one was in Europe. And then after that, I went out to San Diego as an instructor. First, I was out there as an NDOC instructor, which is the couple weeks before you go to actual first phase. And then I was a first phase instructor. And now I am in NRD Phoenix, which is Navy Recruiting District Phoenix, as the Spec Ops Coordinator. So essentially what that means is anybody that's joining the Navy that wants to go the special operations route, whether it be SEAL, SWIC, EOD, diver, or air, then what I do is I facilitate all of the PSTs, which is the physical screen test, which is the swim, the push-ups, the sit-ups, the pull-ups, and the run. And then after they pass that, then I sign my signature on their page 13, and then they're off to boot camp, and the rest is all there. The reason I joined originally was because I will never forget the day when I was sitting in my 7th grade class, in my math and science class. I had the same teacher, and 9/11 happened, and I wanted to do something about people doing very bad things. And so I always like this. We always have like a saying that goes, we do things that other people need to do so they can do what they want to do. And then the best thing about my job, it's too difficult to just pick a single thing. The camaraderie, the brotherhood, the jack of all trades, meaning there's so many different, SME routes you could go. So subject matter expert. So I was a breacher and also a comms guy. You can also go and be a sniper. You can be a corpsman, which is like 18 Delta, with like the medical route. There's a lot of different avenues you can go. And my top Navy memory, like I said, there's a lot of things to choose from, but from like each point in my career, I would say just looking back and just all the way back to before I even got into the Navy was just working out in the program, in the depth pool, just getting to know everybody, getting to know one another, then going to boot camp and just becoming a part of the Navy And then after that, going to Bud's prep and just working out a lot and literally getting paid to just work out. We were in a pool, on a track, in a gym, or in a classroom. And then right after that is when you go to Bud's, you go to NDOC first. So it's kind of like an introduction to, and you can go to the next slide, actually. It'll also help weave everything together.
And before we get off of that, just a little bit about your background. I like the fact that you said that you were motivated on 9/11 to go out and make a difference. And that means a lot to me personally, because I was at the World Trade Center on 9/11. So, if you, in your way, thank you very much for all of us who had to endure that, and for you going out there and making a difference. We really do appreciate it. And it's not on deaf ears. Those of us who are there really appreciate the service that you and your brothers in the SEALs have done for us. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. And as we all know, this is kind of like off the cuff. There's a lot of stuff going on right now in the world, and that's especially in this country alone, let alone. And I just wish there was a way we could get back to how we were the day after that. That was the closest I've ever, and granted, I was only like 11 or 12 at the time, and now I'm 31. But that was the closest I've ever seen everybody come together. It didn't matter who you are, where you're from, but we were one country with one ideal. And hopefully one day we can get back to that.
Right. Totally agree.
But with that being said, so before I get into like the pipeline, what is a Navy SEAL, right? Navy Special Warfare Operators are like the foundation of the Navy Special Warfare Combat Forces. They're called SEALs because we work in all the environments, sea, air, land, right? I'm not going to go too far into the slide just because I don't read lots off the slides. But just know that you can insert from any platform, whether it be out of a helo, out of a plane, off of a boat, diving, all sorts of different ways, which is why I always say, like, we're a jack of all trades. We can do a lot of things, but the biggest thing that makes us different from all the other special forces is that not only can we do the land things and the air, but we're very, very good on maritime environments. So next slide. So this will be a very quick video, just a very brief video. And once it's done, then I'll pick up again.
Few know how the U.S. Navy SEALs became the well-known and feared warriors they are today. From the beaches of Normandy to the jungles of Vietnam, their actions have had a direct impact on history. The years after their formal designation would be filled with both combat and non-combat accomplishments that make up their legacy. Starting in the late 1950s, underwater demolition men, known as UDTs, set the foundation for the leapfrogs. In 1964, the concept of a small demonstration team was approved. Then, in 1969, under the leadership of Lieutenant Scotty Lyon, the Navy parachute team was officially designated by the Navy Recruiting Command. The Leapfrogs are made up of 15 highly trained team members who volunteer for a 3-year tour. Some say the SEALs have no boundaries. They operate at sea, in the air, on land, and even in space. NASA relied heavily on UDT operators to assist with astronaut survival and recovery in the late 1950s. In 1969, Frogmen performed a miraculous recovery in front of an international television audience of 500 million when the Apollo 11 command module Columbia capsized on landing in the Pacific Ocean. The men recovered the astronauts within several minutes. While SEALs succeeded in non-combat operations, the threat of communism grew around the world. Frogmen were called on to fight once more. In January 1962, SEAL Team 1 deployed to South Vietnam to train local forces in the tactics and techniques of maritime commandos during the fight against the communist Viet Cong guerrillas.
Cool, next slide.
So, when you were talking earlier, you were describing about different subspecialties within the SEALs, right? Because just showing that video and like the pictures we're seeing, just a vast array of the things that that vocation does, right? So do you focus on one thing in particular and do specialized training with that, or are you generalists in every single thing?
So the way it works is, so you go to buds first, and it's like I have to go through the pipeline first to sort of answer the question.
Sure.
So you go to boot camp, get out of boot camp, you go to buds prep. After buds prep, you go to buds, which is where you go to first phase, which is when Hell Week is. Second phase is when you go through all the basic diving and dive physics and things like that to learn it.
Right.
And then third phase is the very basic land warfare tactics and shooting with a pistol and rifle. Once you get done with buds, then you graduate from there. Then you go to SQT, which is SEAL qualification training. That's when you get more in depth with CQC, which is close quarters combat, which is clearing houses and things like that, with looking for hostages or whatever the case may be. You do more in depth land warfare training. We'll do SEER training. That's when we go to free fall. That's when we go to Kodiak, Alaska for winter warfare training and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
You graduate from SQT. That's when you go to one of the SEAL teams, whether it be the East Coast, which all the even number teams are, or the West Coast, where the odd number teams are, or you go to SDVs, which is out in Hawaii. And then from there is when you can pick like your more of a specialty, right? So everyone knows like the very basics of everything. However, like everyone knows, all of us know how to shoot guns, right? But then we have our snipers, who are the like very prestigious and the most elite snipers that can take the longer shots and the longer range and all things like that. Or you have like the breachers that know how to go through different types of wall structures and doors and windows and use minimal amount of force as possible. So that way you can still be like the sneaky people.
Right.
You have the comms guys who are all about communications and radios and things like that. So it's like everyone has their own, there's like the SEAL teams, and then you have like you be having like your actual who you are with all the basics, and then you branch off into what specific route you'd like to go. So me personally, I was a breacher just because I really enjoyed shooting big guns and blowing things up. So that's why I went the route that I did.
But seriously, who doesn't, right? So that's fine.
Yeah, so that's that. I loved it. And then going off of that too is, we conduct different inserts and extractions. Like I said before, from sea, air, and land. We do high value targets. We go and do direct actions, which is like direct hits. We also go and do FID, which is forward training. So you're going to different countries. So like when I went to Europe, for example, and we bounced around to different countries like Romania, Lithuania, Poland, things like that, we're doing more integrated training with those different countries to teach them and also learn different things that we may not have already known from them and things like that. So
okay,
things like SEAL is just, go to the desert and like do things like that. It's like, and go to war. It's like, no, there's a lot of different things that we're maneuvering like a chessboard.
So, back to your experience working with some of our European allies. I mean, was that also their corresponding special forces group, or was that just general infantry? I mean, how did that work, and what was the exchange like? Because clearly, you guys show up, you have a reputation, right? So
right, and it was honestly, it was a different experience, and I'm glad I got to experience it. Depending on which country we're in, I can't go too far into the details with it.
Certainly,
however, like just the different countries we were in and the different groups of individuals we're working with would then tailor the type of training we would be doing. So if one country was better or had a better idea of what the diving, then we would pick their brains on that. Or if one of the countries were better at doing maybe like hostage rescue things or like on a ship or whatever the case may be,
right?
What we do, and then vice versa. They knew if we were better at something, then they would pick our brains on things, and we would help them, and they'd help us. And
oh, that's great. That's great. So check the ego at the door. Learn the skills.
Oh yeah, that's with anything in life. And this is just a life lesson: is if you can't check your ego at the door, then you're not going to go very far in life, because that's your ego is what's going to ruin everything. So
right. Yes, you're absolutely right.
The hard way, but you live and you learn.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so then we can go to the next slide real quick. And so we'll play this video just because I like it, and then we'll keep going from this.
They converted some of the missile tubes to SEAL delivery systems. They couldn't find us.
Special Warfare Operators, or SOs, is a collective group of Navy SEALs.
We train to jump, we train to dive, swim, come out of the water, fight on land, and do anything in between. Our primary weapon is the M4. We use the SIG pistol. We're transitioning to the Glock 9mm. We shoot everything from rocket launchers to automatic weapons, long-range sniper guns. You're going to learn diving equipment. You're going to have multiple different types of fins and masks. Our equipment loadout that we get issued to us from our supply command is just like I can barely fit it into my garage.
Say we're going to go into a cold weather environment. We go through training in Kodiak, Alaska. They throw us in the ice in the river for 8 minutes till damn near hypothermia.
Everybody nowadays can run fast, and so much is known about the pipeline out there now that guys are able to do the sit-ups and the push-ups and all that kind of stuff, no problem, but it takes big mental effort to get through.
We actually had a couple Olympic athletes and they quit. So what is it that brings a guy to the end besides durability and his body being able to handle it is grit. And how do you measure grit? You have to put them in uncomfortable situations where other people are relying on them. Putting a boat on their head and making them run down the beach in extreme pain. The log PT that I'm sure you've seen. Or land warfare. The very basics of it is shooting and moving. I think for every SEAL operator there is operating at the team, there's 10 guys supporting them. Corpsmen would be intelligence specialists, parachute riggers, GMs, MAs, comms guys, and supply guys. So when you think of SEALs, you think of the water. For the last 10 years, we've been land-based because the wars have been Iraq and Afghanistan. But originally, we were the maritime force. So let's say there's a vessel and there's pirates on board. We would be the guys that would go in at night with the pirates armed, and we would take that vessel down for that quick, hard hit. And that's what we're good for.
So I like that video because it kind of just brings everything together that we were just talking about, right? Like we aren't just great at one thing, we're really good at everything. And then, like I said before, you have guys that are this SMEs, the subject matter experts on becoming that lead breacher or the team sniper or whatever the case may be. And I want to say something real quick. I wouldn't say necessarily the other countries were better at some things. It's just they may have a different tactic. So we would take what we already knew and just maybe add something that would help us be even better.
Right.
I thought about that after I said it just now.
No. I got you.
Yeah.
But to that point, and we were discussing about keeping your eyes open, learning things. You can learn things from everybody, right?
For sure.
So yeah, you may be the best at something in particular, but doesn't mean there's not somebody or some bodies out there that can just help sharpen your skills if given the opportunity.
Well, yeah, it's all saying like iron sharpens iron, right? So you want to go with the best of the best just to get your skills even better. And the world's always adapting and changing. And that's where you're, like we said earlier, you got to leave your ego at the door and understand that maybe your way isn't the best way, right? There's a good way, but if there's a better way, then you should probably learn how to do that one. And that's where all the different training pipelines come into play. And people from all walks of life, whether they be from a good upbringing, a bad upbringing, like good family, a bad family, doesn't really matter. That's like the whole point of the whole brotherhood concept is, doesn't really matter who you are, where you come from, is can you do your job and can I trust you and you have my back and I have yours, and let's go do whatever we got to do and be hard and conquer everything. So
that's great. Hey, going back to like one of the very first things, and we didn't really talk about it, having to do with your background when you were growing up, right? So you're from Michigan, right?
Correct.
What part of Michigan?
I'll say Detroit because that's like the common thing everyone knows, but
Mhm.
right outside of it.
Okay. So that being said, did your family have a military background, and what was their level of like interest or support when their son was going off to do something like that? Because there's there can be some angst in having your baby boy go off and be a SEAL. And I'm not trying to minimize it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's a good question. So, and that's another reason why I not only did I join, but I chose this route was to show. So I have 6 sisters and 3 brothers.
Okay.
My dad was in the Navy. I 2 of my uncles that I know were in the Marines. So I had a little bit of family history when it came to being in the military. I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to be the best of the best. I wanted to show my siblings at the time that we are very capable of doing whatever we want, however we want. It's going to take, obviously, the bigger the goal you have, the harder the work it's going to take, and it may take a little bit longer, but the payoff is way better in the long run, right? And so, and the whole saying of pain is temporary, but quitting is forever. And that was a part, it goes into like my reason why I was able to be so successful was because all those hardships and those hard times I had going through training, I would just think back into why am I even here to begin with? And that's and they said on here, especially like today, guys they're bigger, they're faster, they're stronger, but you still have the same amount of people quitting. And why is that? It's because yes, you have to have that physical capability of doing it. However, some say 80, I would say it's 90% mental. The whole point of it is to put you in the most adverse environments to see how you're going to respond. Do you become an extremely selfish person that pities me and woe me and I'm tired and I'm in pain? Or do you take yourself out of that situation and think about everybody else and all your boys next to you being like, yeah, he's also tired. He's in more pain than I am. I got to take myself out of it. And what can I do to make it easier on him? And if everyone has that same team bonding mentality, it's still going to be hard, but it's still going to be difficult, but it's not going to be as hard compared to, well, if you try, no one can make it through on their own. It's impossible. That's why it's called the teams. It's why it's a brotherhood. Like you cannot make it through this training, let alone be successful in this career if you're an extremely selfish, self-minded individual. And so that's what I just love about it.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, good stuff.
So we'll roll to the next slide. And so this is what I wanted to get to because I know like being a SEAL is cool and all that stuff, but like we're talking to a younger group. So it's like, well, how do I even go to do it? Right. Well, first, before you even get to boot camp, you have to go to your local recruiter, talk to them, tell them what you want to go do. And then you have to take a PST, right? The PST is a physical screen test. And what you have to do is at the very minimum, you have to swim in the 500 in 12:30 or less. Then you get a 10-minute break. You have to do at least 50 push-ups in 2 minutes. Then you get 2-minute rest. At least 50 sit-ups in 2 minutes. You get a 2-minute rest. At least 10 pull-ups. Then you get a 10-minute rest. And then you have to run 1.5 miles, in 10 minutes and 30 seconds. Now, that's the minimum. If all you do is the minimum, you're not going to get selected. It's way too competitive, and there's too many people that are scoring way higher than that to get selected. And there's only so many seats that can get filled. So say a class has like 165 people, right? Well, if I have 200 people that just passed, I'm going to take the top 165 scores. So although the other 35 people passed, they're not going to get a chance because I'm going to give the better people the chance. And that's just how that is. So with that being said, like you're always striving to get better and better. And then once you do pass, don't just accept the fact. Don't accept the fact that you passed. Just understand that you did, but keep improving those numbers so that you give yourself a better chance of actually making it through.
So when you went through this and you did your initial screening, right? I mean, clearly this is a pretty big challenge, right? This is a significant challenge, and some of the questions which are coming through in particular is, how do you get yourself prepared to do this? Because to your point, this is the minimum, right? And you're in a competition with people that are really good at this. So, how did you personally get yourself ready to go that you could exceed this, not just meet it, in order to make that selection?
Right. That's a great question, especially when it comes to the swim. Like I said, I'm from the city. I was on a swim team. I thought I knew how to swim until I took the PST the first time, and I swam a 12:22, which is an awful score, by the way. But it was very humbling, and it was like I said before, it was an ego check, really. It's like, wow, I thought I'd be better, but I wasn't. But what I did to get better is I showed up every single day. And there's different mentoring programs like myself. I'm the coordinator out here in Phoenix. I live in Phoenix. However, I'm in charge of Arizona, New Mexico, El Paso, and Durango, right? So that whole region is who I'm in charge of. And the program the Warrior Challenge program got stood up, I think, let's see, I've been in for 12 and a half years, so maybe 13-ish years. It was right before I got in. It was like the initial start of it, and it's grown to be even better now today, obviously. However, that's the biggest thing, is going and getting mentored by somebody that's even hopefully has already been there and done that. You can also use this really crazy thing called Google that literally tells you everything you need to know. Everything I'm saying out of my mouth right now, you can literally go on Google and look all this stuff up.
And that's a beautiful thing too. And cadets, the computer can be used for a lot of purposes. One of them is research. You may not know that, but it's possible. Anyway,
you literally have every single answer to all your questions in the palm of your hand.
So all of this stuff is available to you. Like in the past, it wasn't, right? It was like surprise. Right?
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say it was a surprise, but it wasn't as easily attainable, right? So now you have the whole sealswick.com. You have different recruiter with the pamphlets there's more books and movies now than I can even explain, and that's probably why more people want to see it and do it. But and on a side note, if that's your reason why I'm doing it, just because it looks cool, that's a completely wrong reason. I'm just going to go ahead and say that right now. But the way you go about it is you talk to your recruiter, and then they'll link you up with either the scout and or the mentor and coordinator, and then they will put you through the PST. It's called your initial, right? The first time you ever do it, just to see what your baseline numbers are. And because you've already done your own research, at least know what to expect. You're not going into it blind. So you're going to have to do a 500 swim. You're going to have to do at least 50 push-ups and all this stuff. So before you can get to that, you can go on sealswick.com, and it will tell you different workouts you can do to get better at doing the swim and the push-ups and the sit-ups and the pull-ups and the run and things like that.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah. And there's different, I'm sure, I don't quote me on it because I haven't looked into the YouTube videos with it. However, I'm sure there's different YouTube videos too that you can look up for better PST scores or whatever you want to, and I'm sure you could easily get it. But I know for a fact you can Google different workouts. But just make sure, with that being said, you are validating your resource. Once again, if it's on the internet, does not necessarily mean it's true. So just talk to someone. That's why, in my opinion, the best thing you can do is talk to the local recruiter. They'll get you linked up with at least the scout, if not their mentor or coordinator for that region. And they will literally tell you specifically where you got to go, what time you need to be there, what to bring, and all that stuff. So,
right. So in the episode we had just before this, we were talking to Chief Mariano.
Yeah.
Okay. And he was saying that some of these, and he's, by the way, watching, just so you know.
I know.
Okay. He probably let you know. But anyway, we thank him for connecting us to you for this presentation. So shout out to the Chief. Thank you, Chief. But he was mentioning, like early morning Skype calls, like 4 o'clock in the morning, just regular routine, to get people up and motivated with the Warrior Challenge program. So it's an endeavor. I mean, it's if you are motivated to do this, you have to be all in.
Yeah. So, and it's not even, I would even say motivated, right? Because motivation is just emotion, and emotions go faster than you get them. You have to be committed. And that's one of the things a lot of people, especially the younger generation, I don't mean this generation, but younger generation sense of like younger aged people, they don't understand the actual meaning of the word commitment, right? And so what is commitment? Commitment is doing what you said you're going to do long after that feeling or emotion has gone, right? People say they want to go and be a SEAL and all these different special programs until I tell them what's expected of them. Like, well, I don't want to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Well, then it's not for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you can't even make that small sacrifice, short-term sacrifice for long-term gain, you got to give up to go up. You can't keep doing the same things in life over and over and expect to have these big drastic things change. That's literally the definition of insanity, is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And so what we've implemented, it was right. It hasn't been like a long thing. It's been ever since all this COVID stuff happened. And we're trying to come up with another way, because our workouts start, because we're in Phoenix. And I don't know if you know about it, but it's really hot out here in the summer. So
I've heard that. It's like the desert almost, right?
Yeah, pretty much. It feels like fun sometimes. But you can't work out with these guys in the middle of the day because it's just too hot. And so our workouts start at 5 o'clock in the morning. And so the way I run it is, well, whether it's hot and or cold, because in the winter, it's definitely not warm in the morning. It's still pretty chilly. But we just stick to that 5 o'clock. It keeps an easy schedule. But also it's because when you do go to boot camp, it's the same thing. So you're just prepping yourself now for what you're going to have to. It's that muscle memory of getting used to it. And at first, especially if you're not used to being a morning person, and I'm still not a morning person, but there's also a job I got to do and a commitment that I've made. So I still got to get up and do it. Right. And so in my opinion, like, you can either make excuses and it won't happen, or you can not make excuses and then get the results you want. You can't have both, though. You can't make the excuse and still get the results you want. It doesn't work that way. So what we've now implemented, sorry to retract a little bit, is the Google team meets we do now. For us, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, but it's not even just with us. And I'm not even the one that started it. I know there's another SEAL chief out in NTAG, Rocky. Also, one of the scouts who is a SWIC chief with myself out in El Paso, and another mentor who used to be in SEAL teams. Now he's a civilian, but he runs. He's the mentor out in Chicago. They're the ones that put it all together, and I just hopped on to piggyback off what they're doing because I really believe in it. But every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, for, like I said, our time, Pacific Standard at 4, we run different meetings, usually ran in by different future sailors that are in the Warrior Challenge program, and they get told, or they get to pick a topic to which they're going to speak to, and they do a minimum 15-minute presentation on whatever the topic is, whether it be mental toughness, what VO2 is and how to get VO2 max better, running techniques, or what it, like today was on the Constitution, or why it's so important and how it relates to today, and just things like that. Yeah, and it's pretty good because it's forcing you now to buy in to not only what we tell you, but that you can actually go do it. And it makes it more important and bigger than just being a PST. Because that's a lot of things. A lot of times what people get confused is they think all they got to do is show up, pass the PST, and they're good to go. Well, no, all the PST is telling me is that you are now physically qualified to have a chance to go do it. That's got nothing to do with mental toughness, like, at all. And what then goes into play with that is, what are you doing on a daily basis to not only grow your muscles, but to grow your mind? Mm-hmm. To be able to understand, like, okay, yes, I know this may not be a very comfortable situation, but what's going to happen if I just persevere through the adversity, and what's the product's going to be on the outside of it? And 9 times out of 10, if you persevere and just keep going a little bit longer, you'll not only surprise yourself, but you're going to exceptionally expound upon what you've already done. And then you're just setting yourself up for success that much more. And you'll be able to do a lot more different things. Because if life was easy, everyone would be super happy and successful at everything they did. It's so, and if someone told you that, they lied to you.
So cadets, although we are specifically talking about, the Navy SEAL program and the Warrior Challenge program and all that type of stuff, I mean, this is definitely applicable to whatever route you want to take in life, right? So, for example, many of you, especially the high school juniors and like seniors who are trying to wrap things up, you've taken the SATs, right? You've pushed yourself, you've gotten good grades with that. You've worked hard, you've gotten yourself accepted to a university, right? Or some college or some sort of thing, right? And this is very similar to what SO1 is talking about right now. Just because you made that minimum qualification and just because they accepted you in the door does not mean that you're going to get good grades, and it doesn't mean you're going to graduate. So the same mental toughness that we're talking about as far as being a SEAL is applicable to you regardless of what path you take in life. So I hope you're getting that out of this conversation.
Oh yeah, it's the same thing I tell all the students I have out here. Take the trident off me. I'm the same person. This is just my job. This doesn't make me. This, my underneath, is what makes this. This, you don't get twisted. And that's why when I see like all these people, I don't get starstruck. Like, I don't know why people do, honestly. Like celebrities or anything like that. They're just someone and someone in the NFL, right? Why are they so special? Like, yeah, they're good at football and they get paid a lot of money, but that's literally the only difference, is they get paid a lot of money. They're still a human being. So then that once you can understand that it's attainable and it is possible, then what else can you go do? Because the only time someone says it's impossible, it's because they've never done it before. Like, I forgot the year, so don't quote me on it, but there's a story, and it's a true story, about a gentleman named Roger Bannister. And it was back in the early 1900s. I don't remember exactly what year it was. I forgot. But back then, they were always told it's physically impossible to run a mile in less than 4 minutes because your heart will implode. Like, it's physically impossible for any human being to ever do it. Well, and then he went and did it. And then after he did it, I know there was more people that I'm thinking that same year, within that next year, about 50 people did it. And now you have high school kids today doing it.
Right. And
what's the only difference? The difference is someone said, well, it's only impossible because no one's done it yet. I want to be the first one to go do it. And imagine if every single person who ever said, oh, that's impossible for me to go do, how are world records set? It's because no one's done it, but they're not going to just because no one else has done it, well, why can't I be the first one to go do it then?
Right. Excellent point.
You apply that to everything in life. It's like, who cares? And trust me when I say there was multiple people, and I won't use names because I know I'm live right now, and this is getting broadcasted. However, there was multiple people, and some people are actually pretty close to me, that said I would never be able to achieve what I've achieved today. But I actually appreciate that, because I like that negative not mentality, that negative fuel. If that's what fuels me, I like proving people wrong. Like, yeah, it feels good to have someone say, yeah, you can go do it. But when someone says you can't go do that, that makes me want to do it even more. So that's just, now I don't know if that's like healthy or good. But that's just how I am. So, but use whatever. But that's the other thing too, I guess I could talk about, just be genuine to you. Be real to you. Don't change who you want to be or who you should be just because it's easy to go this route, or it's the cool thing to go this route, or it might take a little less work to go this route. Well, keep in mind, if you're too big to do the little things, you're too little to cash the big checks. And I don't mean just make a lot of money. I mean, if you're too big to your ego or your pride, or you're the cool kid, and you can't even, like, when you're walking down the street and you see a piece of trash, you're like, well, I didn't put it there, and you just leave it. Well, just pick it up. Throw it away. Like, yeah, someone else left it, but why don't you be the bigger person and just throw it away? Imagine if, for a little health and world of health class real quick, imagine if everyone picked up one piece of trash that every single day, how much cleaner everything would be.
Excellent point.
That's a different topic. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like, life is not easy. It's very hard, but at the same time, it's very simple. Because if you want to be great, it's kind of already pre-written what you have to do. And you don't really have a choice. You don't have an option. Like, if you want to be in shape and you want to look a certain way and feel a certain way, well, then you don't have the option to not work out and not eat healthy and eat McDonald's every day and ice cream every day and all that stuff. Like, so when people think they have, that's the other thing too, is like, you got to stop thinking you have all these different things you can go do when it's not benefiting you at all. And with that being said, my parents used to tell me this all the time. And now that I actually have a kid, I understand what they're saying. And when they was like, I don't like you hanging out with those kids. They're bad kids. Like, yeah, but they're my friends. Well, now that I'm older and I've done some personal development and things like that, it's like, well, you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. So think about those 5 people you hang out with the most and how closely, I guess, related in the sense of how like you guys are, whether it be in sports, whether it be in school, extracurricular activities, whether they're good or bad. Like, if you're hanging around 5 not so good people, you're probably doing the same things as they are. So in order for that to change, you got to change your circle. And if you want what someone has, you're going to have to do what they've done. And if you never had it, then you're going to have to do things you've never done. And sometimes that means not talking to people you shouldn't be talking to.
Right.
But do you want to go this route or do you want to go this route? You have that choice, but if you want to have this sort of success, you don't have the option to make these sorts of decisions. And so that's where it's like, and that's what I'm saying, like, I love personal development. I'm not much of a reader, so I do audiobooks. I'll do YouTube videos, just different things like that. I have my son doing the same things right next to me, so that I'm getting him set up now to where it doesn't matter who tells you what. If you put your mind to it, anything is possible. And it's not going to be overnight, and it's going to take hard work. But as long as you're consistent with it every single day and it compounds off of one another. I mean, think about it. If you have a 1% change every single day with what you want to be. So let's say, since we're talking about being a SEAL, let's say we're going to talk about the PST and the swim. And let's say you were like me, and the first time you did the swim, you had no idea how to do the side stroke. You were awful at it. And because of how bad you were, you never wanted to do it again. Well, then you're never going to get any better. Or you work on it day in and day out. And I don't mean you swim 5,000 yards every single day, but you just have a little bit of change every day. 1%, 1%, 1%, 1%. Well, if you only do it for 2 weeks, well, you're only getting a 14% change. And if you're really, really bad, it's not that big of a difference. However, if you do that day in and day out for 365 days, you're 3.5 times better. So 365% better than that first time you did it. But now it's the same thing. Now let's put it in perspective of, well, if I take 1 day off and I just go every other day instead of every day, well, you're still going to be almost twice as good. You're 180% better. But just taking 1 day off and going every other day instead of every day, that huge change you have. So that change could be in 2 complete different directions, whether it be I did it every day and had a huge change, I wasn't that much better, or I didn't, and so I wasn't able to hit my goal when I wanted to. So
good.
As you can see, I love personal development and mindset training and things like that, because like I said, anybody has the capability of getting bigger and faster and stronger. It doesn't matter. Like, if you do enough repetitions on push-ups and sit-ups and all that stuff, you're bound to eventually pass it. So that's why I like to hit more on the things that not as many people talk about, which is the mindset, which is the mental, which is your body is very capable of doing a lot of really crazy things as long as you tell yourself that you can actually go do it. So, I mean, like Hell Week, for example, you have to go through Hell Week. Well, the normal person doesn't think they can actually stay. So during Hell Week, it's Sunday to Friday. It's a whole week. And that whole week, you only get 4 hours of sleep. And your first 2 hours is until Wednesday, and you're up on Sunday. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're up and you're doing log PT and boats and surf passage. And the only time you're not doing something is when you're eating food. So it's like, but how do you do it? I don't know. Other than you just don't have a choice if you want to make it. That's my point, though. You don't have the option of doing or not doing. You have a choice. If you want to make it, then you just go do it. That's it. But how do you keep your body moving? Well, you tell yourself, well, I don't know how we're doing this. We ain't stopping until they say we're done. Well, they didn't say it yet, so we just got to keep going until they say it.
That's a very interesting perspective. So with the time that we have left, there have been quite a few questions coming in from the cadets.
Okay, yes. Any time, by the way, if there's some questions that need to get answered.
So one of them is that, one of the cadets noticed that you have jump wings. So what was it like the first time you jumped out of a plane?
Crazy. Like, it was weird because that whole thought of that like falling feeling, like when you ride a roller coaster and you go up and you like drop down and you get that like weird feeling in your stomach, or like you go over like a hill when you're driving or something like that.
Right.
That's not how it is. Now, usually I believe it's 120 knots, I believe, is the speed that the plane's flying. So when you jump out of it, it's called riding the wave. When you jump out, you kind of like think of your body as like when you drop a piece of paper. It doesn't just drop. The wind and air catches it and it kind of like floats down. You do the same thing. You jump out, you hit the wave, and you kind of like float down, and then you actually start falling. So it's not like the quick drop. It's you ride it. So it was cool. Oh. Now when you first jump out too, you don't like just jump out by yourself and like, oh, good luck, buddy. Either do that. You have to do different simulations and things like that. And then they teach you how to fall properly if like something happens. But they have two of their jump masters. Like you have this like suit on that has, I guess, foam on the side. I don't really know what you would call it, but the soft things right here. And they like you have two people holding each side of you when you jump out, so you're not like spinning and going crazy, and you can like just jump out and see what it feels like. So.
Oh, okay, great, fantastic. Another question was, as you were an instructor at Buds, is there anything in particular that made certain, say, cadets, if they're called that, applicants, I don't know what the term is, stand out?
Yeah, so I just call them students.
Students, okay.
Yeah, so the best way to make it through is it's called being a gray man. And what I mean by that is don't go out of your way to try to be bad. So what I mean by that is, as you can see, like you see the people holding the log. Don't be the guy that's yelling and complaining about how tired you are and how much pain you're in. It's called suffer in silence. You're not the only one that hurts. You're not the only one that's in pain or tired. Just do it because you got to do it. Same thing like and you see them running with boats on their heads. It's called being a boat ducker. So as you can see the boats on their head, well, when you got 6 or 7 guys, depending on the amount of people in your boat crew, if once it starts sun, your neck starts to hurt, your head starts to hurt, but you still got to keep your head there. Once you start doing this and being a boat ducker, you're thinking more on yourself and you're going to hurt somebody else. So the biggest thing you can do is if you just do what you're so told to do and meet the standards to which you're supposed to meet. So for example, in first phase, you have to do the 4-mile run in 32 minutes. Don't fail it. Just pass it. When you're doing conditioning runs, don't feel sorry for yourself. Stick up at the front of the pack. Because if you can fall a bit in the back, you're going to write your name down. And the more they write your name down, the more they get to know you, and you don't want you don't want people to know you in that light. Now,
You just want to be, like you said, in gray, invisible, right?
exactly. Just be one of the students that's just there doing what they got to do. Now, obviously, there's going to be some people that their name's known, but it's because of how good they're doing. But usually at that part of the phase, it's not because of how good they're doing. It's because of how bad they are. And yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
don't be that guy.
Okay. Okay. And just to double check, the SEALs program is still not open to females. Is that correct?
False. It is open.
It is open.
It is.
Okay. So, how is that transition going, and how long has that been in place?
Don't quote me, but I believe it started January of 2018.
Okay. See how far I'm out of it? Well, not being in the SEAL community. Okay. So that being said, the requirements are the same, right? No difference.
Same. Still got to run a PST, and you still got your head. You get your head shaved when you get there.
Okay. And are there female Navy SEALs?
No.
Just because of the challenge at this point in time?
I'll keep it PC because it's streaming live, but I'll say yes.
Okay. Well, that's fine. So any of our female cadets on there, that could be you, right? So get your head wrapped around it if this is what you want to do. This is what we're learning here. So
Yep.
Fantastic. So another one of the questions is, this is one of the beauties of time. So knowing what you know now, is there anything you would have done differently?
I'm assuming they mean going through buds, right?
It's kind of nondescript, so you can pick the thing that you want, but I would think buds. Let's focus on that because that seems to be the initial challenge here.
So I would say, not that I didn't have a lot of attention to detail, but you can never have too much. So always having attention to detail, having situational awareness, knowing what's going on at all times as much as possible. Also like I said before, surrounding yourself with the right individuals in the class. For me, I was the bellboy. And what that means is I was the youngest kid in my class. And so the bell that you ring out on,
Right.
I was the one shining it every single day. So I didn't really have a choice to be a gray man because every instructor saw me every single morning when I'd go hang it back up or at the end of the day when I would take it down.
Right.
But, I would just be a sponge. And so I guess not really what I would change, but just things that I know you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
But have fun. That's one thing. That's the people that I'm part of the people. For me anyways, people always ask me well, how was it? I'm like, it's literally the worst, best part of my entire life. You're cold the whole time. You're uncomfortable the whole time. You're tired the whole time. But you're doing it with people and you can't really explain it, but you're closer to some of these people than you are with people like your own family. Because one thing that every single person has in common that's wearing this is we all went through Hell Week and we all graduated. And so it's like I said, it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, you aren't judged off of that. You're judged by what you can do and your reputation. So I guess that's another thing too, is knowing that your reputation is literally everything.
Mm-hmm.
So know that it doesn't start when you get there. It starts before you get there. And just know that don't screw your name up. I'll just say that.
Okay. That looks like a t-shirt or a bumper sticker or something like that. So that's a winner. And that is actually very good advice because you are the public relations department of you, and you can seriously screw that up and it follows you. So just be aware of that, cadets.
Well, I always tell people what's one thing that no one can take away from you, and it's your name.
Right.
So it's on you what you do with it.
Good point. Excellent point. So many of our cadets, they're still trying to figure out what they want to do in life, right? Moving forward, trying to attain a Navy SEAL background, clearly, as we've learned today, or should have already been known, is a tremendous challenge, right? But many of the cadets are very interested in serving in the Navy, and through this program, they've learned a lot of different career fields and skills and things like that. And one of the things that they always are asking, because this is a big jump, right? You're going from home and family and things that and then the next thing you're doing is you're stepping off a boat at RTC Great Lakes, right? Yeah. Okay. So as much as they go through the MEPS program, as much as support as they get from recruiters, it's still them stepping off that bus at Great Lakes. So right. Do you have any particular advice that you like to give your future sailors and onto recruits before they head off to recruit training?
Yeah. So before you leave, they give you this thing called a start guide or a study guide. I think it's a start guide to study. Know it before you leave, because you literally get paid to know more of the answer, like to know what you need to know, like the general orders and ranking recognition and all that stuff. And know that no matter what program you want to go to or whatever job you want to have, whether it's the special operations route or whether it's being an IT or whatever the case may be, it doesn't matter. You have to be a sailor before anything else. So that means you have to graduate from Navy boot camp. And in order to do that, you need to know all of this information. And know that when you're there, they are going through different ways of getting you out of a civilian mindset and into a military mindset. And so then don't take things personal. Have thick skin. You have to. Which, whether even you're going military route or nothing at all, just always know you need to have thick skin. Don't take it personally, and you should always be able to take constructive criticism, because that's the only way you can grow. But the biggest thing is just asking questions. If you have a legitimate question, there's no such thing as a stupid question. However, if it's a question that you could have known by just opening a book that someone gave you to learn the information on, then you should have done that first. However, with that being said, ask questions. That's what people are there for. Like if you don't know something, because people also, we don't know what you don't know. So we may forget at times. Like I've been in long enough now that I don't remember everything from boot camp, because it's been a minute. Like, I've been 12 and a half years. I went to boot camp April of 2008. So, and that was right after high school. And a lot has happened between April of 2008 and September of 2020. So
yeah, you're absolutely right. And Sea Cadets, if you are really taking to heart the stuff that we do with our program, learning all the stuff in regards to general orders, ranking recognition, Navy custom and courtesies, all that type of stuff, that is a big benefit. Don't just do the BMR, but actually learn it, right? That'll help you out a lot as well. So, knowledge is really important, because that's one less thing you have to really worry about, because you have so many things going on at that point in time. Exactly. So SO1, just so you know, one of your Warrior Challenge folks are here, Daniel Hamburg.
Yeah.
So he wants to give you a what's up. Another series of questions really has to do with, okay, so we talked about the physical. What is the mental requirements, or let's say the ASVAB and requirements for going into the, I don't know if it's particular for the Warrior Challenge program or the SEALs in particular, if there's different ones.
Yeah, so you have to have a minimum 50, and then with that, you also have to have a 50 or 51 MC score too. And let's say, and you can also add up line scores. So it depends on which job, whether it's SEAL, SWIC, EOD, diver, air that you're going for, to look at how they're going to add up. But you also have to not only mentally be able to do it, but also physically and also vision. So you'll get a vision test. Make sure you have good depth perception. Make sure you have, you're not colorblind and you're not blind, and you can actually see without contacts and sunglasses, or contacts and glasses and things like that. So,
okay. All right, that's really great. So, we have one question that our cadets always like to ask. And as we get closer to the end of the broadcast, I like to bring that up to our presenters. So I don't know if you've heard this question before. This is new. If you've heard it before, keep it to yourself and act like you haven't heard this before. That'd be great. But the one question that they always like to ask and is, if you were to describe the Navy in one word, just one word, what would that be and why? A tough one, right? But remember, you only get one word.
Camaraderie.
Camaraderie. Excellent. And why is that? Or should it be obvious?
Because, and this is just my opinion, however, it doesn't, to me anyways, it doesn't matter who, like I said, who you are, where you're from, what job you have in the Navy. Like, yeah, I'm a SEAL, but it's just my job. Like, I chose to do this job. Some people choose to be yeomen. Some people choose to be corpsmen. Some people choose to be physical therapy, whatever. But the one thing we all have in common is we all serve our country. For every single person and that's the thing too, is some people want to, but they just can't. Like I said, if their vision's bad or they had multiple surgeries, or like, it's still luck of the draw when it comes to that too. Like and that's the one thing, like when I tell you, like, ignore the naysayers. There's going to be people that tell you, oh, the easy route's join the military. Well, if it's so easy, then why didn't you do it? Like, it's all talk. And that's why I just love the fact that I love being American. I love this country. And that's one thing we all have in common, whether it's in the Navy, Marines, Army, whatever. Like, being a part of this great nation's, in my opinion, and this is a fact, actually, the best military in the world. We have the best military, we have the best Navy, the best special forces, the best everything. Being able to say I'm a part of that with all my brothers and sisters that are also doing the same thing it's a pretty cool thing to say. And like, not many, like, whether you're still in or people that are veterans, like, you have something you can relate to and you can talk to about and share bunch of sea stories or war stories or whatever. It's just like, or boot camp stories or whatever the case may be. But that's probably, if I had to explain it, that's how I would explain it.
Oh, fantastic. So do you have a final bit of advice to give our cadets before we wrap up this evening?
Whatever you do, go 100% at it. How you do anything is how you do everything. And what I mean by that is, don't cut corners. Because the moment you start cutting corners on one thing, you're, instead of doing something the right way, you're going to now start to try to cut the corner again and cut it again. And you realize you've cut so many corners that you're now screwing things up. And so it may take a little bit longer to do something the right way. But I can promise you it's better to do it a little longer the first time than to screw it up and then to have to do it all over again. And now it looks like you're incompetent because you knew what you're supposed to do and then you didn't do it right. So now it's like your integrity is in play, like, because you knew you're supposed to do, but you didn't. So as you can see, is how you do anything is how you do everything.
Right. That's fantastic. Great advice. And, on behalf of the Naval Sea Cadet Corps and all the future sailors who are watching, I really want to thank you for taking time today to give us your story, give us backgrounds on SEALs. It was very informative to me because I have just a small amount of interacting with the teams. But that was so many years ago, back when, they had sailing ships and all that good stuff. But, it's nice to meet someone like you, especially with your words of motivation, but not just words, but actually doing it. And then, having that goal and having that mental toughness to achieve it. And, it is very inspirational. So, again, thank you very much for spending time with us this evening. Greatly appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on. Yeah. And if you guys have any more questions, you can shoot me a DM. I answer as much as I can. It's literally just my name. So just Chuck Stration Jr. You can shoot it to me. If you have any questions on whether it's SEAL training or SWIC training or just the Navy in general, or if you just want advice on different books to read or whatever, let me know and I'd be more than happy to answer your questions.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. And if you don't mind, we can put some of that contact information in the notes for this online presentation.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll make sure we take care of that. So cadets, definitely reach out. Tremendous resource, tremendous motivation. So take advantage of that. That being said, if you like this episode, and you did, come on, you did, just go in there and smash and destroy that like button. All right. You don't want to disappoint a Navy SEAL. You don't need that. And MC1 Quinlan, she gets really sad. So go in there, hit that like button. We really appreciate it. Go and take the online test. We'll post that up as soon as we're done with the live recording. So get that 2 hours of virtual drill credit and get the pride of knowing that you learned something new today. And again, if not everything was covered on the test, look it up. It's all there. Public knowledge, no big deal. So on behalf of myself, Petty Officer Quinlan, Petty Officer Lewison, Ensign DePippo, thank you very much for joining us today. And we will see you next time for another episode of Real Sailors, Real Sea Stories. Take care, everybody. Thanks a lot. Have a great evening.